Beth Ochingwa. I'm going to take you through biology, and today we are going to look at the homeostatic functions of the skin and the kidney. So, first of all, homeostasis is the self-adjusting mechanism that functions to maintain a steady conditions in the internal environment of a living organism. So we are going to begin with the skin. So the skin, it is made up of two layers. The outer layer, the external layer is called the epidermis, and the internal layer is called the dermis. So the epidermis, being the external layer, has three layers within it. So the epidermis consists of the conified layer, granular layer, and the Malpighian layer. The conified layer, it is the outermost layer. This layer consists of dead cells, and this conified layer also contains keratin. Keratin functions to prevent entry of microorganisms in the skin. It also functions to protect the internal structures of the skin, and it also protects the skin against damage with the ultraviolet rays. The granular layer, it is the middle layer. This layer consists of living cells, and these living cells give rise to the conified layer. We move on to the Malpighian layer. Malpighian layer, it is the innermost layer of the skin. This layer contains melanin. Melanin determines the skin color of a person, of a living organism or a human being. So this melanin, that's why you'll find some people are light-skinned, others are dark-skinned. It is because of this melanin. Now that is the external structure of the skin. The internal structure of the skin, which is the dermis, contains of so many parts. It includes sebaceous glands, subcutaneous fat layer, erector pili muscle, sweat glands, hair follicle, and all that. So, to go to the homeostatic functions of the skin, the skin performs thermoregulation. Thermoregulation, it is simply the regulation of temperature of the body, and the skin performs it. So the skin makes it possible through two processes. These two processes are vasodilation and vasoconstriction. Vasodilation, this occurs when the weather is hot out there. Now when the weather is hot, the erector pili muscles, they do what? They relax, and then the hair follicle lays on top of the screen. It slides, and then the blood vessels come up the top of the screen so as to release heat to the environment because the weather is hot. Hot weather. Now this one happens during the cold weather. During the cold weather, vasoconstriction takes place whereby the erector pili muscles contract, and then the hair follicles rises and stands on top of the screen and on top of the skin, and this makes the warm air to be trapped within the hair follicle of the skin, and thus the body temperature is maintained. Now that is the homeostatic function of the skin. We move move on to the kidney. The kidney is located in the lumbar region of the body. The kidney. It is located in the lumbar region of the body, and the kidney functions. It has so many functions. One of them is osmoregulation, thermoregulation, ionic balance, and so many others. These are just some of the functions of the kidney. Now the kidney has also the internal and the external part. The external part of the kidney contains the cortex, medulla, and the pelvis. These are the external parts of the kidney. The internal part of the kidney contains renal tubules, and the glomerulus. Now, this internal part of the kidney make it possible for the homeostatic functions of the kidney to occur. And these processes lead about to the formation of urine. Now let us look at the urine formation process. The urine formation process occurs whereby blood from the other parts of the body enters the kidney through the renal artery, as it is identified here. Through the renal artery, blood enters from the body to the kidney through the renal artery, and then in the renal artery, that is oxygenated blood, it passes through the afferent arteriole. The afferent arteriole, it is wider than the efferent arteriole. Now blood passes through the afferent arteriole at a very high pressure. From the afferent arteriole, blood goes into the glomerulus here. In the glomerulus, in the glomerulus, a main process occurs, and this process is known as ultrafiltration. So here, ultrafiltration. And from our understanding, we know that ultrafiltration, it is a process whereby large-sized molecules in the blood are allowed to flow through the Bowman's capsule, and the small-sized molecules, are allowed to flow through the Bowman's capsule, and large-sized molecules, since they cannot pass through the pores of the glomerulus, they are left there. So after that, the blood now, it is known as the glomerulus filtrate. Now it moves to the Bowman's capsule. In the Bowman's capsule, active filtration takes place. Active reabsorption takes place of these molecules such as glucose, amino acids, mineral salts, and some water. That is now active filtration. Active reabsorption takes place. After that, the glomerulus filtrate flows to the proximal convoluted tubule. In proximal convoluted tubule. Now here, active reabsorption takes place. Substances such as active reabsorption, substances such as glucose, amino acids, mineral salts and some water are reabsorbed back to the blood. And then the filtrate moves to the loop of Henle. Now, immediately the filtrate reaches the loop of Henle, the adrenal glands in the brain are stimulated. The hypothalamus are stimulated and the adrenal glands produce aldosterone hormone. This hormone makes the wall of the loop of Henle to be selectively permeable to sodium salts. And these sodium salts are therefore reabsorbed back to the blood. Also another process that occurs in the loop of Henle, it is the countercurrent flow. In the countercurrent flow, blood flows in a different direction and water flows in a different direction. And this makes up the countercurrent flow. So after this, the filtrate moves to the proximal, the distal convoluted tubule. In the distal convoluted tubule, immediately the filtrate reaches there, the impulses are sent to the hypothalamus in the brain, and the pituitary glands are stimulated to produce the antidiuretic hormone. So here, antidiuretic, it is also known as ADH, antidiuretic hormone. This hormone makes the walls of the distal convoluted tubule to be selectively permeable to water, and therefore water is reabsorbed back to the blood. Some water, remember, and the rest of the substances are left. Substances such as urea, some salt, and some water are left, and these are moved to the collection tubule. In the collection tubule, now there they form the urine and they move to the ureter. They pass through the ureter, and then they are stored for a short period in the bladder, and then they are removed out of the body. They pass through the urethra in form of urine, and that sums up the urine formation process.